guys, welcome to an all-new episode here of Underground Florida. Today we have a very special guest. We got Zack Smith from Lich King.
Hey guys, how you doing?
How you doing, Zack? How's life treating you after COVID just fucked us up?
Dude, let me tell you, I've been doing nothing but going to work in my shitty regular construction job, which, I like doing the hands-on work, but I would much prefer to be out playing shows and hanging out with my friends. And, it's definitely been rough, but we're getting through it. Last weekend, I got to see the Lich boys for the first time in about a year. So things are looking up.
I'm really glad to hear that, man, because the pandemic has definitely held every single band to do tours, even to work on. Well, I cannot say work on material wise because they did had enough time to actually do that. But man, I'm glad to see you're doing good, man. I'm glad to see you great. Fucking hey, taking a sip. All right. So
Of course, man.
Let's get down to the most important thing about this interview. So I've been a fan of you guys since 2008, since Toxic Zombie Onslaught. Yeah. First time I discovered the term pizza thrash. Now this is something that I really don't remember how old I was at 2008. I might be maybe 13, maybe. I was starting the movement, discovering the new wave of thrash metal. And then, suddenly I discovered you guys based upon that album because, just by looking at it, I was like, damn, this album looks, like a type of, something you would play out at a video game. But technically when it said thrash metal, I said, perfect, another thrash metal band to check out. And I remember this old dude, I think he was in his 50s or 60s, saw me jamming to that album when I got it. This was back in Puerto Rico, and he was like, oh, you're a pizza thrash fan. I'm like, a what? A pizza thrash guy. I'm like, there's no pizza involved in this album. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, no, the term of the genre is called pizza thrash. So I was like, what are you talking about? He says, well, listen to it, and then you'll know exactly why. So people has been calling Lich King as one of the kings of pizza thrash. First things first, how do you guys feel when people called you guys the king of pizza thrash?
I don't know what the fuck that means, but I accept it. Pizza thrash to us is just what we get fed when we're on tour. We get a couple of big stacks of Dominoes and we're good with it. We kind of like it. And, it's, as for I'm not sure if it's supposed to be offensive or if it's cool.
Right.
Whatever the case, it doesn't bother us. It is what it is.
Yeah, because it obviously you, besides alongside with bands like, Gamma Bomb and Municipal Waste, Toxic Holocaust, you name it, they always consider them pizza thrash, which, let's be honest, it's much more fun nowadays because, even kids at the age of 12 or even 10 are having fun with it, but they don't quite understand the term of, us either drinking or, having a little bit of some green on us, but still, the music is quite intentional of the movement of thrash metal. So I know you guys are from Massachusetts, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Has Massachusetts ever gained an undoubtable underground thrash metal movement during your time being active since 2007, or this was something that's starting to rearrange over the years?
Yeah, so I have not actually been with Lich King personally since 2007.
Right.
But I will say I have been in the New England scene for a very, very long time, my whole life. And I would say thrash in particular seems to fill up rooms more than anything else. We've got bands down here right now like Epicenter, Graviton.
Yes.
There's just a bunch of heavy-hitting thrash bands. We got Goblet. And every time all of us get together, a lot of people seem to come out and they all seem to want to have a good time. So I would say over the last 5 or 6 years, thrash is getting bigger than it has in my lifetime, at least in the New England scene.
Because it's just pretty outstanding that back then, I would say around the beginning of 2000s, it was going through that range of saying it will be despair or we'll just go in high levels. It just depends on the crowd because they got stuck in the old stuff, because not going to lie, I'm a big fan of the old school thrash metal scene. But Lich King has the influence based upon the old school, which I noticed that over the years. So I want to know exactly where the term Lich King came about. Was it because you guys are fans into, let's say, based upon comic books, video games, or where did the term of naming the band Lich King came from?
Yeah, so the original singer, Tom Martin, the guy that he's the only guy on Necromantic and Toxic Zombie Onslaught.
Right.
He was a big tabletop game fan, and he kind of came up with it. And then when Joe and Brian jumped in with him,
right,
they kind of adopted the name Lich King and moved forward from there.
The concept is just brutal. I mean, every time I look at it, I'm like, man, I really am digging it. And a lot of people, when they put Lich King to check you guys out, they either see an actual fictional character because they will never find out about the band. So that's why we always have to interpret them about the albums you guys been doing over the years.
Definitely.
So there's a few questions I want to regarding about how Lich King has been preferred to become one of the most, very well-known, respected underground pizza thrash scene, I want to say. There is an EP in 2014, I believe you're familiar with it, Do-Over. The title song, Black Metal Sucks. Now, I have to be honest, for those that are watching this interview, no offense to the black metal scene, but from your perspective point of view, do you actually believe that the band are against the black metal scene, or this was just something random just to fuck up with?
It was just fucking off. We were, it's something silly. We were having a good time, Yeah, it's not personal. Black Metal Sucks, I believe, is originally on Toxic Zombie as well.
Yeah, and also, people at that time with that EP, they were kind of a little bit confused of the fact if you had a split with DRI, because of course you can see the Lich King doing the DRI, dance opposed. Was that something you had to get permission from the band DRI, or this was just something out of coincidence?
Well, we changed it enough. It was more of a paying respects to DRI. We're huge DRI fans, and they've been doing it forever. They paved the way for all of us. So got to put a lot of love on DRI.
There you go. Fucking A. Zack, a lot of things has been going on during these rough times, not only because of the coronavirus, but also we're seeing a lot of people mistreating each other, disrespecting each other due to race, due to their culture, their political beliefs, all of that aspect. And a lot of people has always asked themselves, what is the best way to be motivated in order to despair all the bad vibes going on? Have you guys seen anything in particular that made you guys want to say, we got to get back in the studio, we got to get back writing, create new material, and just share our expression about how we think society is behaving nowadays?
Yeah, man. We've obviously been moved by all the things that have been going on in the news and shit like that. It's terrible, the cops are out of control, a lot of racial injustice going on around the world. And I would say that, that'll be something that will continue to move us in the future. We want to see change.
Because a lot of fans has been always asking, when is Lich King gonna make a brand new album? And I've always told people, like, let's keep in mind that we're in a situation in which not every band are either active making some new material, or it's because they're actually working on the album, or just waiting to get a huge announcement to the crowd. So you never may know. And I had the opportunity to want to interview guys because, like I said, the underground thrash metal scene is starting to get much stronger, and it's starting to get more active nowadays. Especially, there are a lot of new bands that are popping out. There are a lot of new bands that are trying to get out there to push their material forward and to be recognized in their local scene. Now, something that I've always been telling people that I get very frustrated is that no matter what show a local band wants to open, which is a gateway to opportunities to be recognized, most people doesn't give the time or maybe a moment to check them out, to see what material do they have to offer, or even the crowd to feel that vibe, because they say that, oh, this band is not going to be aware of being like the old school bands. We'll just wait for them to finish playing and, get on to the real good stuff, which is the old school bands. Like I said, no disrespect to those. But in your opinion, do you believe that, people should support their local bands? And if so, what are the things that Lich King had to go through in order to get to where they were?
Yeah, man. So, first of all, yes. I definitely think if there's a big band coming to town and they have a bunch of local openers, first of all, those local bands in most cases had to work their asses off to get on that show. So definitely be there, be up front, go off for those guys, because I mean, someday they're gonna be the ones on that big stage,
Damn right.
And not to mention that most of them are fucking killer. Like, we've gotten to go to a lot of places at this point, and just hanging around. We all like to take turns doing merch, and sitting at the merch table or walking around the venue while these local bands are playing from like towns everywhere, man. They're all sick. Like, no matter where you go, there's dope ass bands that are out there playing thrash right now. And I mean, they literally everywhere. To name one that just popped into my head immediately, Head in a Jar out of Sydney, Australia. Those guys, we would have never known about them. And dude, they fucking killed it. Absolutely loved those guys.
I'm really am surprised how you express yourself towards it, and I get so excited about it, because it's very important for some people to understand that once these local bands have their debut or opening a venue, and they're opening for a band that they are influenced by, let's just say, for example, Lich King, they get the opportunity to communicate with you guys. They get the opportunity to get to know a little bit more about you personally, not in music aspect, but mostly as a personal side. Because, the communication of the underground scene is pretty much the best thing you could possibly feel. You get to have communication and further future of, projects, even splits, anything. Do you actually believe that the underground metal scene has always been skeptical of, if they should stick to one genre, or do you think that it's preferable to have mixture of genres to be at any venue, no matter if you're old school or new school?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of varies. There's some things that don't mix well together in terms of crowds, but like, right. I'm all for like the blackened thrash thing, like Skeleton, which those guys fucking kill, man. I've been into those guys for years, and
oh yeah.
But as for like mixing bills, I think it's a good idea to keep it like relatively similar,
Right.
Like within the same world. Like if you get like DRI with like Epica, it's going to be kind of weird. You know
it is.
I mean?
It is, because it's different emotions. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to draw in people that are not adjusted to each other, and it might be awkward for everybody.
Jesus Christ. And I can't agree with you more.
Yeah. In a festival setting, it's one thing, but if it's a 4-band bill, and it's like, DRI, Epica, fucking some Viking metal band, and in Guar, it might be a little weird.
I mean, and now you mentioned Skeleton, which I did have the opportunity to check them out for the very first time. They actually were on tour with Obituary and Dustbolt. Now,
nice, man.
I have to be honest, that was the sickest lineup I've ever seen. But comparing to
Paul Bearer, too.
Yeah, and Paul Bearer, I remember that strictly. Comparing to what Obituary are, because they are a legendary death metal band from Florida, I didn't quite expect it enough in my wildest dreams. I did not expect it that either Dustbolt or Skeleton, which would be on tour with them, because I was like, well, if Obituary is going to play, more death metal bands will also turn in. But guilty as charged, when Dustbolt was announced to be on tour, I said I have to go because I love Dustbolt. I mean,
yeah. Quick segue. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no
actually, the bassist of Lich King, Mike Dreher, played bass for Dustbolt on that tour.
Actually, I remember that.
Yeah, man.
I remember that.
Tour.
Holy shit, I remember that because when I saw him, I'm like, he looks so familiar. Where the hell have I seen him before? He was, I mean, obviously, he was just headbanging the entire time, and I was occupied stage diving the entire time. So I couldn't,
And what else would you want to do?
exactly, especially at a show like that. But people were skeptical about the lineups, and especially when these bands are performing for legendary bands. Now, most legend bands now back then they say we want strictly bands with this preference of genre, the genres that they play. For example, if it's death metal, it's got to be death metal all the way. But nowadays we're seeing of this generation that most legend bands, it's like we don't give a damn if it's thrash, death metal, or even hardcore, because I've been to some Cannibal Corpse show where there's a lot of hardcore straight edge bands performing because George Fisher's a huge hardcore guy. So
as am I. I'm a huge hardcore fan.
There you go.
MVHC. I grew up going to Anchors Up down here, seeing Rude Awakening, Hammer Bros, and some legendary bands like that. So I have a ton of love for hardcore, but there's definitely some just the way that the respected crowds react to the bands, like it can be confrontational.
Well, and was that something that you ever had on tops of saying, well, if we're going to be touring again pretty soon, due to the fact of the situation, we wouldn't mind having some hardcore bands involved being in the lineup?
Oh man, we've played some hardcore shows. There was one in Norfolk, Virginia that we got to play, and it was an absolute banger, dude. We had a ton of fun. We covered an SOD song at that show, and everybody was into it. We had a ton of fun, but there's some settings where those crowds don't mend well at the same time. You know what I mean?
And that's a good question right there. I'm glad you mentioned it, because some crowds that I know of, and I've seen it with my own eyes, let's say most hardcore fans doesn't get along with the thrash, because basically thrash is involved more into pushing, headbanging, and stage diving.
Exactly.
And of course, that the hardcore guys is more stumping, fist pumping, and just, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but karate kicking, spinning, you name it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't disrespect on the hardcore level, because the hardcore music has nothing to do with the crowd. But do you really consider that as a moment of saying, this is not what we expected for the crowds to react when we play? But, what are your thoughts about that whole segment between the hardcore crowds and the thrash crowds?
Yeah. So if we were playing a show and people started dancing like that, I would be all about it. But the problem is the two different crowds infringing on each other,
Right.
So say somebody that's doing their thing, like they're at a hardcore show, they go to throw like a back fist or something like that, and somebody else is walking by and they get clipped in the face pretty hard. They're pissed off about it. It can be a disaster. Like, nobody wants to see that. And it creates bad blood. And I feel like hardcore music and thrash are pretty fucking similar at this point. So we all like the same shit.
Exactly. It is pretty similar.
Yeah, there's a ton of similarities. So I hate the fact that there can be bad blood between the two scenes, because that's not what any of us want at the end of the day. Now,
great statement that you care about seeing the fans just having a good time and not, beating up on each other, which is pretty much what every single band and fans would like to see is not bad blood. But there has been a lot of things that I've always talked to most of the bands that I interviewed on Instagram TV. And I like to keep repeating these questions based upon different bands, just to hear their opinion about related to their music or to metal music in general. So, as you know, that there's a lot of people out there, such as myself, not going to lie, we do suffer from depression. And of course, depression is one of the most challenging illnesses that we could ever face, upon, not, knowing where can we fit as a person with the crowd, or what type of identity can we present ourselves towards of. And we've always said that there's got to be something that would help us get motivated to do the impossible. And I always say that metal music all my life has been, my therapy to actually keep moving forward, to fight against depression. And I know there's some people out there, such as myself, that agrees to the same topic and, the standard point of using metal music as a therapeutic tool to fight against depression. Now, Has anybody ever came up to you guys or ever like wrote to you by email, by a fan letter, thanking you guys for, keeping that music energy going, expanding a lot more? And if so, or not, have you ever thought of saying, man, I think metal music in general has made people come together and just feel like a family? Like, what are your thoughts about all of that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I definitely had people come up to us and give us that thank you, like for helping get them through some rough times. And
Right.
I'm really happy that we are able to do that for people. But as somebody who also struggles with depression myself, I can say that, man, there's nothing that can bring you out of that better than being able to go to a metal show and be around a bunch of like-minded people who are all there to have a good time, which has definitely made the last year extremely difficult for all of us. I think we can all relate on that.
Right.
And yeah, it's just fuck, man. I miss hanging out with my friends. I miss going to shows, and I'm really looking forward to things opening back up. Everybody staying healthy, getting vaccinated, and getting back to business.
I just do hope that every single body that's watching this, they should definitely get vaccinated, because such as myself that I did, please do. If you guys want everything to get back to normal and also be able to go back to venues and to have a great time, please. Even Zack is begging you, please get vaccinated.
I'm fully vaccinated. I got the Johnson & Johnson shot before it was taken off.
Me too.
I've had no health complications from it.
None whatsoever.
Yeah, Bill Gates is not putting a microchip in you. You already carry a cell phone.
Now that's a good topic. What do you think about people coming up with some stupid, unlogical sense of saying, oh, like these vaccines contain these microscopic chips to spy on you or to do shit on you? Like, why do you think people comes up with this shit?
It's the funniest thing I've ever heard, honestly, because, like, first of all, logistically, it's just not reasonable. Like,
exactly,
it would cost the government so much money to make anything like that happen. That's even entertaining the thought to begin with.
Right.
But the other thing is, like, if people are worried about like tracking and shit like that, they probably read about this conspiracy theory on their cell phone that they walk around with in their pocket, that they have like, oh, allow Facebook to access your location. It's the silliest shit I have ever heard, man.
I was even more like out of words when last night, I had an interview. They interviewed me, Cody, Nick Zoza from Patriot, and other guys from a page called What's Expected podcast, and they were actually giving me a question saying, hey Julian, I actually discovered that there was an article related about scientific mosquitoes ready to be launched in Florida to battle against other mosquitoes that could cause deadly viruses and sickness. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? I was like, where did you come up with this? And he's like, if you look up on it on the internet, you'll find out. What are your thoughts about that? First of all, I didn't do shit, okay? I barely watch the news because they always speak about the same topics regarding about what happened from the first day of January till John Schiffer's release from jail, which we're not going to get into that. But I actually went through my phone and I searched for it, and I'm like, well, I'll be damned. There are scientific mosquitoes will be launched, which I think it was about, I want to say almost a million or billion mosquitoes that will help to destroy actual mosquitoes to prevent sickness or any deadly viruses. I didn't know how the hell they do that, but I got to read more on that.
That's topic. Real? That's 100% real.
Yeah, 100 confirmed. Like, it's all over the news. Confirmed, they say that is actually real. Like, the mosquitoes that will be launched here in Florida will actually combat against those mosquitoes to prevent us from not getting any type of viruses or any other type of illnesses. So
that's wild.
Wild and something you will see actually in a science fiction or horror film, because that's the only place you can see that shit. Now, there's some fans that gave me a list of questions they want to ask to you. So I have 5 out of the best ones that I can possibly choose of. So number 1, the question would be, if there's anything you could say about one of Lich King's artwork, which one do you think represents what this society is going through nowadays? I'm pretty sure he's talking about the album cover.
As far as our artwork goes, shit, man, I think our artwork is pretty disassociated from current society. It's like a bunch of zombies and a lich. Yeah, that's a really difficult question for me to answer. But I will say that my favorite album art that we have is probably World Gone Dead. I love the horde of zombies in there. And triumphant, and you got the Boston skyline in the background.
I saw that. And
that's my favorite one.
What's even amazing is that Brian is the illustrator. I believe Brian is the illustrator of most of the albums.
No, sir. Tom, the original singer, does all the art.
Yeah, because I know Brian's an illustrator, but I think Brian did. I think he did had something to do with the logo, like make it a new upgrade of it, or that was just Tom as well. Because people are still speculating about that.
Yeah, Tom does pretty much all of our art. If Brian did make an adjustment to it, I'm not aware of it. Brian is more. He's our audio guy. He records all the records at his studio in Shelburne Falls, which is called Sonic Titan Studios. Yeah. And yeah, he takes care of all that stuff, and then Joe is on management.
Right.
And Tom takes care of the art and things like that.
So we got another question for you. It says, if there's anything you can describe thrash in one word, what would it be? Oh shit. That's another tough one.
Fast.
There you go. I mean, yes. I mean, fast is, let me check it for another one. Yeah, it's true. It is fast. Aggressive as well. I would say aggressive.
Yeah, that's the first one that comes to my mind is fast. But yeah, I would say fast and aggressive.
Question number 3. It says, have you ever digged into hair metal? And if so, would you ever have your hair just like, oh my God, like Brett Michaels?
Man, I've actually got my Brett Michaels wig in the other room right now. I don't want to go dig it out right now, but big fan. Love Poison. Love the Rock of Love. Long live Brett Michaels.
And that's something that you're not quite ashamed of. I mean, I do know that you're the type of guy that you will listen to any sort of metal, regarding if it's either glam metal or yeah, let's say glam metal even. No, like you have no shame of it whatsoever to even share it to the people and say, oh yeah, I do dig this band.
Dude, if it's got riffs, it's got riffs.
Exactly. I mean, I love Dokken, so Dokken is pretty much one of my favorite. I wouldn't say it's a glam band. We'll call it more as a heavy metal hard rock band. So yeah.
Yeah, I dig Dokken. Dokken's cool.
There you go. Number 4. Is Lich King preparing an album? And if so, can we expect it for early or late 2022?
So we don't have any information about a date on that yet, but there is some new material in the works.
Confirmed. New materials in the works, guys. And I'm pretty sure most of you will be bugging my ass wondering if they will happen. Zack just confirmed it. They're working on something. No pressure. Just let the man be. Let them do. Question number 5, based upon the fans asking. If there's anything you can eliminate from this society's behavior, what would it be?
Oh man, there's a lot, but racism stands out to me like up top. I think everybody should be treated equally and everybody should have equal opportunities. But there's a lot of things go into that, you know. There's distribution of wealth in there, but racism definitely stands out to me there.
I'm really glad you actually shared that part, because I completely agree with you 100%. I would just say respect those so they can respect you in that sense, you know.
Of course.
Now, I am pretty sure you are familiar with the death metal scene here in Florida. I mean, you're familiar with the death metal genre, am I right?
Of course.
Obviously, what kind of fucking question is that? Doy. But I have to ask those questions because there's some bands, let's just be honest, there's some bands that are not really into death metal. But for those that do and they say they are, then it's very important to ask him the question I've always liked to ask to everyone's I've interviewed. So, with your opinion, all right, this is the first time that we're debuting our very first video for our YouTube channel, and Lich King is the first one I'm interviewing. So, first of all, thank you for that.
Oh, dude, you're doing a great job. I thought you did this all the time.
I mean, I've been doing it most of the time on IGTV, but some friend of mine just said, you know what, it's time for you to do it on YouTube and just put the content out there. So I said, you know what, let's do it.
Yeah, stay on it because I've done a few of these, and I would say that you've kept it very interesting. You're doing great work.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Now, this is the question, and I would really love for your honesty, and I would like you to imply of why you choose the answer on the question I'm about to give you. So, which for you was the first death metal record? Was it Seven Churches or Scream Bloody Gore?
So I'm not super savvy on the history, but I will say that Scream Bloody Gore is the most raw and intense fucking record I've ever heard. Still to this day, like, oh my God. When I'm going through the death discography, like everybody loves Symbolic and the classic
one. The melodic,
Scream Bloody Gore. Yeah. Scream Bloody Gore is my favorite death record. It is so fucking intense, dude. Yes. Just thinking about it, like I'm probably putting it on as soon as we hang up.
Is there any influence based upon the illustration that Ed Repka did back then with Scream Bloody Gore? Did that have something to do with Tom adding some of that same element to Lich King's artworks, or was this just something that he just came up with out of the blue?
That would be a question that I would have to ask him about, honestly.
Because most of the illustration just remind me of that vibration of Scream Bloody Gore.
Yeah, the color schemes are definitely similar, especially between World Gone Dead and the work on the cloaks. I could definitely see that. I can't for sure confirm if that was an influence from Tom, but I know that he is a Repka fan.
Then I'm pretty sure that's where he gets most of the idea of every Lich King illustration. So confirm that as well. During this week, are there any top 5 vinyls that you've been jamming so far?
Like new releases or just things that I've been spinning on my own time?
Yeah, spinning on your own time or new releases, anything in general.
Yeah, so I'm not constantly listening to like thrash and shit like that, but this week I've listened to Graveyard's Hinson Gen Blues a few times.
All
definitely.
Right.
Love that record. I'm on a huge Bowie kick right now.
There you go.
Yeah, the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust is what I have in there right now.
Fucking A.
And Jesus, my fucking cat just fell off the fridge. You're a goofball. But yeah, I haven't listened to that many vinyls this week, but in my own time while I'm at work, I've definitely listened to a couple of classic thrash albums. I've just been looking for that inspiration. I was listening to Rust in Peace earlier.
There you go.
Because for Metal Injection's Slay at Home last week, I did a collaboration with Yoav from Atheist, Eric from Switchblade Jesus,
nice,
Nick Burks from Stonecutters, and Sean from Yatra. And we did Megadeth's Take No Prisoners. And I've heard our version so many times now that I had to remember what the original one sounded like. So
my God.
Yeah, so I threw on the whole record while I was at it. And that's always a banger.
And speaking of new record, I am pretty sure you are familiar or do have a physical copy of the new Cannibal Corpse album, which is Violence Unimagined.
Of course, dude. Of course. Mike sent me that record like a couple days after it came out, and I've probably spun it like 5 or 6 times right now. that first track hits so fucking hard.
I mean, the first time I've heard of the first track, it does remind me that has a little bit of a Hate Eternal vibe, because we all know that Eric Rudon is now officially in Cannibal Corpse, and he's done most of the productions over the years. But when you just hear that record, you're just like, holy shit! Like this is like a Hate Eternal combined with Cannibal Corpse old school style. So it fit absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it's crazy. In those George Fisher vocals, man, like I've said it for a long time, but like you don't really find that power in a low register vocalist. But fuck, man, he has like as much power as a Tom Araya, but he's doing it low as fuck. It blows my mind. I don't know how he does that. Now,
the question is, which of the illustration covers do you have? Do you have the face of the female, or do you have the female eating the baby's corpse right after he's born?
To be honest, I don't have a physical copy of it. I've been spinning it on Spotify.
Oh, okay. So
I think that's just the face.
Just the face. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people, such as myself, well, not myself, but most other people that are starting to get familiar with Cannibal Corpse that's never heard of before, which I'm pretty surprised. But every day someone learns something brand new in metal. So, this illustration, I remember that I interviewed last night Daniel Decay from Diamonds and from Exciter.
Fucking awesome.
He's such a great human being. I really enjoyed having an interview with him. He was so passionate of, just talking about metal in general. We didn't even get to know that much about how he got into Exciter of that per se, but it just made the life so goddamn interesting. And one of the things that he said that I can agree with him a lot was that most people were comparing the vibe of the new album cover based upon the other ones, such as, I want to say it was Tomb of the Emulated and Butchered at Birth, which he was like, no, like Butchered at Birth and Tomb of the Emulated is still the most disturbing ones. It's more, it's pretty much more disturbing compared to this one. He said it was more artistic.
Yeah, it has like some of the Evisceration Plague vibes, the album cover from that one, but it's got a lot more detail and a lot more color to it.
Now, 2 questions, so that way this interview will get a lot more interesting. So, which one do you think is still the most disturbing illustration based upon the ones I've mentioned? Like, do you think it's Butchered at Birth or Tomb of the Emulated?
Butchered at Birth. That's fucked. So fucked.
Have you ever got that on vinyl? And if so, did you had an experience with your parents catching you listening to the record and saying, "What the hell are you listening to?"
So I actually didn't start my vinyl collection until a few years ago. So I was already emancipated by that point.
Right.
But my death metal tracks, I pretty much I wasn't getting any of that shit on CD or anything like that. I was getting it all on LimeWire and hearing it online through people like that. So
shit, the good old days.
It never really blew up on me like that until the day that I showed up with a Cannibal Corpse shirt on. And they were like, what the fuck is that?
I strictly remember me wearing the Eaten Back to Life long sleeve. And I remember I was at Disney spending time with the family. And then there was this lady behind me at I think it was Space Mountain, huge line. And she, out of almost 25 minutes in the line, she actually noticed my shirt, and she said, "Do you have a jacket on you?" Out of the blue. This was like, I want to say 3 years ago. I said, "Excuse me?" She said, "Do you have a jacket on you?" I said, "No." And she says, "Well, can you try and cover your t-shirt because it's pretty offensive?" And I'm like, who told you to observe and appreciate what I'm wearing? Like, if you don't like it, just don't look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's craziness. I could not fathom walking up to a stranger and being like, your t-shirt's ridiculous.
Oh my God. And still to this day, this is a generation where I want to say that everybody is getting offended by the materials that not only Cannibal Corpse, well, mostly I want to say what Cannibal Corpse has been doing, because let's be honest, for me, that's like the only band, in my opinion, that had one of the most disturbing records of all time, and fans over the world are still influenced by what they've done. But now we're seeing that this generation, people are getting offended by either the material that they're working on, the illustrations that they are portraying for their covers, and they just want, either record companies to like control what the artist is trying to give out to the public that understands its material, or trying to prevent on not getting sued of allowing, bands to, to present their art, their artistic view. Um, what are your thoughts about people nowadays getting offended, including the whole Mr. Potato Head thing? Because still to this day, I still don't fucking understand about the whole Mr. Potato Head. It's a goddamn potato. Like, I just don't.
It is a potato.
It's a potato. You can grab them right now from the fridge and you can just stack shit on it and you look. How offensive is that? There's no offensive on that. So, I don't know. This generation is getting pretty weird. So, what are your thoughts about all of those?
Yeah, man. It's a slippery slope, and I'm not sure what the right answer is on it.
Yeah.
There's definitely some things that I find ridiculous, but there's definitely some things that I find necessary, and I kind of prefer to keep those things to myself.
That's pretty true and pretty understandable.
I don't want to say anything that would be unfair to anybody else because everything is circumstantial.
And do you actually believe and agree that every single band of, of the new waves of thrash or death metal or black metal, or speed metal, let's just say metal in general, do you think that they should compose their own music by not depending on record labels, or do you might think they need a little bit of a help to push them forward when it comes to promotions?
I'm sorry, one more time on that one for me.
Oh, so there's a lot of bands that are a little bit skeptical of, getting themselves, involved into a record label because they have no idea if the record label is going to change their, their concept or their music just for the better sake of promotions, marketing. And most bands do not agree upon that. They just want whatever they have for themselves. They just want to let it out their way, their version. And get most of the credits to themselves based upon marketing and based upon creativity. Do you think bands of this generation or bands that are still active as of today, should they compose their own music and compose all the rights to themselves? Or do you think they might need some help learning about the marketing industry with a record label?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely benefits to both of those things. It's really dependent on the artists themselves, Right. Like we're an unsigned band and we do everything ourselves, and that's worked for us. But we have a ton of friends that have gone the record label route, and that's worked for them. So I support anybody's path to success, however works for them.
I'm glad for that because there's just so many bands out there that likes to do it on their own. And there are bands that are like, say, well, we just want to get to that push of trying to get our record out there and be recognized by either Metal Blade or Nuclear Blast Records, mostly of those. So I definitely agree and accept your opinion towards it because I definitely agree with you as well. So, Zach, we're reaching now to the end of this interview. So one thing I really want to ask you, if there's anything you can actually apply to the new bands that are watching this interview that are starting to immerse themselves to become the new generation of the underground scene, what advice can you give them to keep them motivated and working hard?
Just keep on keeping on, man. Don't give up. Keep putting out material. Keep playing those shows. Network. And just anything you guys can do. Stay positive and make sure you keep having fun with it. That's the most important part. As soon as it stops being fun, it's like, it's not that cool anymore.
There you go. Well, guys, Zack Smith from Lich King, be prepared because these guys have something to offer for this year and maybe for next year's possibility tour if most of you gets vaccinated. If not, you might as well just keep sitting down and waiting until you guys learn your shits because let's be honest, we're kind of like, already tired of being stuck at home and basically doing nothing. So, Zack, I can't thank you enough, man.
I can't thank you enough. This was great.
I do appreciate your time, do appreciate your support. And of course, Underground Florida will always support what Lich King has to offer. You know, basically that's mostly what I've been doing since 2017, supporting new wave of bands and also local bands, and of course support local, you know, old school bands. So let's just keep it real. But yes, guys, stay tuned. Lich King's got something on for you, and please, to help the band keep growing out more, to make more material, more merch, buy some merch, buy a CD, if you can. If you can't, well, try to save money and try and do it again, because there's a lot of ways you can cooperate. Well, Zach,
Yeah.
I do
And hey,
appreciate
can I just plug something real quick? We did just start a Patreon, and we've got a bunch of exclusive content on there. The more you guys contribute, the more shit that we can do, and the closer we are to being able to do this full time. So anything's helpful. It's patreon.com/Lich King Metal. If you subscribe pretty soon, you'll have access to a free enamel pin at the $10 tier. And it's exclusive to our Patreon subscribers. So get over there and check that out.
Confirmed. If you guys want that in your battle vest or in your battle jacket or in your leather jacket, not in your butthole, mostly in your jacket, subscribe. Just support your locals and support the new wave of old school thrash metal.
Yeah, that's patreon.com/Lich King Metal. Thanks, guys.
Confirmed. All right, Zach, thank you very much. And I hope to actually keep in touch with you on Instagram.
Yeah, man, shoot me a message anytime. This was fun as fuck, and thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate it. Thank you for being the first guest to actually be a part of the first YouTube channel. So thank you for that.
It was awesome, man. You're doing great work. I'm looking forward to the next one. Hit me up anytime.
You got it. All right, guys. Lich King in the house, Undergo, Florida. We'll keep on with more updates and more interviews. So good night. Cheers to you guys. And remember, be there or get fucked.
Cheers.
Cheers.